Hi guys, so in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to actually create realistic looking shadows when it comes to skin shading, and not only that, how to actually blend colors together without using any smudge tool or blur tool on IBIS Paint X. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into the video. So this is the color that I am going to be starting off with, and I actually took a screenshot from Procreate color palettes and I kind of imported the picture right here so that I can instantly pick colors from there and start coloring. So I use this color to build the initial shadows for the skin. Now it actually guides me later down in the process when I'm painting a portrait, and it helps me in deciding where I should more shadows and more depth. So the key here to avoid using any smudge brush or blur tool is to use your brush in such a way that you don't really need to use any smudge tool or blur tool. And how you do it is by playing with the pressure that you're putting onto the screen. So if you're not really used to digital art just yet, I would highly recommend you guys to first practice different pressures that you put onto the screen to see how much pigmentation you are putting in onto the canvas when you put a certain amount of pressure. Now once your hands get really used to it, it's really easy to start shading paintings in a way that where you don't need any blending brush or blending tools. So here what I'm doing is I took this brush, and the brush called Airbrush Triangle, and I started shading the nose really light-handed so that I don't need to use any smudge brush later on. Now I'm going to follow the same step, but this time around I'm just going to pick up this color which is slightly darker than the base color that I used to create the initial shadows, and that's how I actually build up shadows when I am painting skin, layer by layer. So first step, you go ahead and pick a color which is slightly darker than the base color. So I already have a skin color as my background, which is my base color. So that would be the number one step if you don't have it as your background, or if you're actually really painting skin. So I started adding this darker color, but this time what I did is I actually decreased the size of the brush a little bit, and I am just following the same step. I'm not putting much pressure onto the screen because I don't want it to look that harsh, and I'm also avoiding the use of any smudge brush. So I made sure that I am putting less pressure, and at the same time I'm creating good shadows. And the reason why I decreased the size of the brush is because I wanted the whole shadow to look as if it is actually coming from this really dark looking color to this light looking color. I hope this is making sense. That is why I just wanted to put this color right under, not underneath, but right in the middle of those initial shadows that we created. And I hope this is making sense, and that's how I keep building up the shadows. And also, I will explain why I chose this specific color palette, and I'm just going to be creating very soon a tutorial on how to actually create color palettes for skin. So you might want to have your own skin color palette, doesn't really matter. Now I'm picking up this pink blush kind of color, and I'm just going to add it randomly. Now I add blush onto the nose really randomly. I'm not specific about it, but yeah, make sure you're creating a new layer for that. And I kept this layer in between both of the layers where we created different colored shadows. And again, make sure you're not putting much pressure onto the screen. All right, just make sure you're putting enough to just lay the color down, but not in a way where the color is looking harsh. Now I'm picking up this maroon color, really deep in maroon kind of color. So we are going to be really careful with this one because this is pretty dark. And again, just create a new layer again. And I also decrease the opacity a little bit because this color is too much. And I'm not really used to using IBIS Paint that much. So I was, again, myself, it was like a new experience almost because I don't really shade skin on IBIS Paint. But yeah, it is a good software and app. So again, this time around I decrease the size of the brush a little bit more, And again, I also decrease the opacity, and really lightly, again, I'm adding this color right in the middle of every other shadow that we created. That's how I actually, shade skin or create shadows to the skin. That's my own process, and it looks good in the end. So yeah, that's what I am doing right here. And I want you to add this color where you want to add more and more depth, okay, more and more shadow. Again, keeping in mind that, the pressure thing, okay? So if you want me to do a tutorial solely focus on how to actually practice this and how to actually really get used to this kind of painting, then I would be happy to do so. Again, the other thing is I have used colors with pink undertone in my color palette and 4 colors with orange undertone in the color palette right here on my canvas. And the reason being is because we don't want our portrait painting to look ashy at all. And I would highly suggest, no matter what kind of skin tone you're painting, add some sort of reds and pinks in there, because obviously our skin sometimes shows up the blood underneath it. I don't know how else to explain this, but yeah, that is really, really necessary to create that realistic looking skin kind of texture or skin kind of look. Now the shadow part is done. Right now it's looking too much. I actually ended up decreasing the opacity of a few layers that I will show you guys in the end. But right here I'm just adding highlights by using white color. Now if you are painting a darker skin tone, I would not recommend using white color as your highlight. Again, I'll be doing a video on how to create color palettes for skin painting, but that's for the other time. So here basically what I do is I'm using the same brush. So as a base, what I do, I decrease the opacity and I kind of sometimes increase the size of the brush based on the area that I'm adding the highlight towards, and I just add this really light-handed, really light looking initial base layer, I should say, of the highlight with white color, and then I decrease the size of the brush and increase opacity, and I add little dots or lines to add more pigmentation. I hope this is making sense. But yeah, that's how you want to do it. That's how I add highlights, and I love doing it this way. So that's about that. If you have any confusion, you guys, because I try my best to explain these concepts, and if you still have some questions, you can always ask me in the comment section down below. Also, if you do end up creating these, do tag me on Instagram. I would love to see your end result. Alright, now once the highlight was done, once the highlight was looking fine to me, what I did, I went back to the layers and I kind of decreased the opacity of the layers where we added the maroonish color and also where we added the dark sort of skin color. Okay, the second layer that we created, I decreased their opacity because they were just looking too much. And what I did apart from that is I went back to the layer where we added the base shadow, where we used this color which was not that dark, and I changed the layer mode to multiply, and again I went ahead and decreased the opacity of that layer a little bit. So it's up to you how you want to play around with the layers, and that is something I do in the end of my painting when I'm like kind of satisfied with everything, and I kind of go back and see what opacity is looking good, what layer mode is looking good, and I would highly recommend you guys to play around with those as well. You can also play around with saturation of those layers if you want to, and yeah, I would highly recommend doing that because sometimes we don't know how the painting is going to look once we play around with these things. Alright, so this is the advantage of painting on a digital software or app, that you can actually play around with a lot of different stuff to see what is looking the best. So So I hope this video made sense. I hope this video helped you. I hope you are getting something out of this tutorial. If you are, then comment down below, and also if you have any questions, ask me in the comment section down below. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Also, I will be putting a static carousel post on my Instagram for the similar tutorial that I did right here. So if you want to kind of save that for later, you can just go ahead and follow me on Instagram. So other than that, I will see you guys in the next video.